Okay. Thank you and welcome everyone to our ELHS School Building Committee meeting. Today is August 10th, 3 p.m. or actually 3:01 p.m. We'll start. And I think not only attached to the calendar invitation, but at your places, we have the minutes from the last meeting. Someone you've had a chance to review them, wouldn't mind presenting a motion to approve.
Someone.
Okay, well, let's read.
Second.
That's second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, if not, we'll have to do a roll call vote because we do have people online. So we'll start with Mr. Fenny.
Abstain. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Meaning. Ms. Labar.
Abstaining, I was not here.
Okay. Mr. Page.
Gotta do the same. Was not here.
I'm a yes. Ms. Brown.
I think I was there. They all blend together.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't mean it like that. I just mean like I don't know if I'm on this committee or that committee, so I can't remember.
You were
Okay,
there.
You were there.
then yes.
Okay. Do we have Ms. Collins online?
You not.
Do not, okay. Mr. Quimby.
Yes.
Mr. Crucial, did you make it yet?
Seem a little. He's not.
Did not, okay.
That's right. It's not funny.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
About here.
Yes.
Okay. Gonna be close with all the abstentions. 1, 2, 3. We'll move on. I don't know that it passed because I don't think we have enough people voting in terms of a quorum.
Sure we do.
We have half of what's here.
Do we have 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, you were right. Okay, so it passes. All right,
How many are on the committee? 13?
we have 12 on the committee now.
Oh,
Who's somebody?
Yeah, who is?
Mary McNally.
Oh, because we had already put on time. Okay.
Okay, moving on to public participation. We don't have anybody here in the room with us. Do we have anybody online?
There's nobody online.
Everybody's away. Okay, so then we will move forward and we will move into motions and approvals. And I believe we're starting with the updated proprietary list that yeah.
Well, so I may have put these in the wrong order. I thought I'd have these organized such that we go through the life cycle analysis information first and then do the motions and approvals, if that's all right. Just that way we can allow the engineer
Yep.
to leave a little earlier, but we wanted to be sure.
Sure, people
Andy
would
was
be
here.
interested in a little earlier. All right, so we'll go into design update if that's all right with everybody.
So we will introduce Andy Oldman from SMMA to talk through this. Remember, as we explained, it's important to design the right HVAC system and do some assessment of its total lifetime costs, operational costs, and do a comparison. So Andy set up 3 options for us, and he's going to explain those options and the modeling and what the conclusions are from that.
Sorry, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Your screen is a little bit blurry to me, but I'm going to go off of a local copy that I have. Should work fine. And so the MSBA requires that we assess 3 different mechanical systems for a project such as this, and compare them also with a system that's representative of the code baseline. And so that's why you're seeing in this slide, there's 4 different rows representing 4 different systems that we studied. The code baseline is really nothing to talk about. It's not a system that you would probably ever install. It's, rooftop DX units with electric resistance heat throughout the space. It's but it fairly represents what would be the code energy consumption for the proposed building. So that's why that is shown in the spreadsheet. And then otherwise, the things to recognize is that the life cycle cost analysis includes the installation costs for the proposed systems, and it also includes estimates for energy cost for operating those systems. And we developed those by developing an energy model for the proposed project to represent the geometry of the building, the envelope and the level of insulation, the type of glazing, the orientation of the building, all of that, including the occupancy and the scheduled usage. And then we put in these 3 different system types that are represented by the base system, which is a VRF air-cooled system, and then what's identified as option M1 and option M2. And so those 3 systems were modeled, and estimates of the energy consumption were generated, and then the costs for that energy consumption over a 50-year period were projected, and that's what you're seeing in terms of these costs that are listed here. So you're seeing the upfront installation cost. You're seeing, going a little bit out of order for the columns here, but you're seeing the projected 50-year energy costs. And then you're also seeing columns representing replacement costs and maintenance costs. So replacement cost reflects the fact that if we're looking over a 50-year period, not all the systems are going to last that 50 years. So in the example of the base system, the VRF system, that is estimated to have a 15-year life. And so you'd be replacing it in year 15, year 30, and year 45. And so the cost of that replacement is projected. And it's carried forward in sort of today dollars over that 50-year period. And similarly for the geothermal system, while we're confident and we assume that the actual geothermal system itself in that option would certainly last the 50-year period and probably longer. The mechanical equipment that's within the building, compressorized equipment that runs off of that would need to be replaced during that 50-year period. That's typical for all these options, and it's typical for most every mechanical system out there in the market. Anything with moving parts eventually needs to be replaced. Maintenance costs were also projected. So those are represented as an expected annual cost. And the way that, we've looked at that is if you might have a service contract with a company that comes in and annually services, rooftop equipment, or services, in the case of the VRF system, is servicing the components of that system.
I'll take some.
Sorry, is there a question or?
No, just, yeah, sorry, excuse me.
Yep, okay, no worries. Please jump in. Otherwise I'm gonna just kind of ramble to get through what I'm gonna talk about here. Ultimately, all those costs for installation, replacement, maintenance, and energy are bundled together as a 50-year life cost of the proposed mechanical system. And you can see, again, I'm kind of disregarding the code baseline since that's not a realistic option. But for the 3 systems we studied, the base system, which is the air-cooled VRF system. So if just so everybody understands what these are, if you've seen those wall-mounted air conditioners in homes or your doctor's office or here or wherever, that's that kind of system. So it's got an outdoor condensing unit that has refrigerant piping, piped to an indoor fan cooler unit. So your typical classroom would have a fan cooler unit with ductwork serving that classroom, and it would be connected through refrigerant piping to an outdoor unit. And that system, as you can see from a 50-year life cycle basis, is the most cost competitive system. Also, importantly, from an installation cost basis, since I know we've already been talking in the project about value engineering, so that also has the most attractive first cost for the project. And so this is the system that offers heating and air conditioning to the facility, and it operates pretty efficiently. And from a predicted energy use intensity basis, we're showing a figure of 26.6, which, you know, I think as we go forward in the design and as the design gets more detailed and we're able to use more realistic design information instead of making assumptions at this early time, we'll probably be able to refine that number a little bit. Okay. Any questions?
That EUI, the lower the number, the better.
Yeah, so that's an energy use intensity figure. So that's sort of a common way of looking at, you know, how systems might compare in use across different facilities. So yeah, that's thousands of BTUs per square foot per year. That's how that's normalized.
And remember, we looked at those mass save incentives and they're tied to the EU.
I should mention, you know, option M1, which is the geothermal option. We looked at this pretty hard. We're, you know, you know, I'm secretly pulling for geothermal to be a little bit more favorable, if possible. But there's no getting around the raw cost of that option. You know, drilling these vertical boreholes out and, you know, across a 2.5 acre, you know, field, and then bringing all that piping back to the building represents itself as like just an overall additional cost to the project. And even though it operates, you know, more efficiently, it's not enough to really, it's not enough to kind of shift the tide to show it as a hands down better option.
So remember, when we looked at the mass save incentives, there is more incentive for geothermal, but it doesn't make up the difference. It hasn't. The only outside crazy possibility is the IRA money. They haven't released the guidelines. But yeah, I was talking to an engineer on another project this morning who is, you know, there's those guidelines are meant to fully pay for ground source heat pumps, but the guidelines aren't out. So we're just stuck without that and without the evidence that that's there. We just kind of can't offer it. So
We're gonna leave our hands on, but I'm pretty sure we told Dartmouth that IRA will pay 30%.
right, exactly. Well, and supposedly it'll pay more to municipalities now than it would to a private client, a private project. So, so that 30% plus the mass save certainly gets you closer. But again, we're still it still looks as if we're a couple million away. So even if you had that and we don't have it in hand, so we're still firmly around the air source heat pump in base option 1.
We did look at those incentives, you know, both mass save and IRA, and they totaled, you know, about 3.7 million as a projection against the $10 million additional that the cost estimators were figuring that geothermal would be. But for the sake of showing, you know, the figure that you're going to see against the budget of the project is the cost of that installation without any incentive. The incentive is something that is realized when the project is done. And the mass save we feel, you know, relatively confident with, but the federal money we feel a little less confident with. So I would.
IRA is federal.
RF.
IRA standpoint.
Inflation Reduction Act.
So we're in for the VRF currently,
We are.
correct?
Yeah.
So it is a $10 million difference.
Yeah.
If there's a 30% incentive, does that get us closer to the geothermal? It seems awfully close.
So I
does,
did.
but
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
I was going to say I did run the numbers with, you know, to reflect that $3.7 million difference, and it makes it a little closer, but it doesn't really move the needle enough to. It still has the geothermal option showing as but a, you know,
$6 million.
21 or I think it was actually 26-year payback relative to the code baseline versus VRF, which is a 7.5-year payback relative to that.
And this, under the energy cost, that's the energy costs over 50-year period.
That's right. So it's a net present value cost of an annual energy cost over a 50-year period.
Okay.
And Andy, can you just briefly, as simply as possible, describe the difference between the base system and M2?
Sure. I'm wishing I had some good graphics. Give me one. So, well, I'm realizing I'm probably not going to be able to share my screen, so it's fruitless.
Yeah,
So, sorry,
you could.
I could. Okay.
You have to look on there.
Let me make sure I can find it.
Yeah, everybody have to look up here, but
Oh, Andy.
Savings into the price, right? The final price.
No, I don't think it is. That's what they're talking. But that's, so Dory, just go back to that 30%. That's non-existing yet. That's not in the calculation. He only took 3.7 million. 30% would be 8 million. But so that's not available, the 30% of the 24. It's 30% of that, or is that not it?
Yeah, it's really, so the difference between the VRF and the geothermal is a $10 million upfront cost difference. So you see that the VRF is about 14 million roughly, and the geothermal is 24 million. So that relative 30% is, really going against the $10 million. That's the differential cost of the geothermal.
On the difference? That's what it is?
That's
Calculation on the difference?
what
Well,
how
it's-
it's.
Yeah, so because the overall cost includes many more things, it includes a control system, includes distribution ductwork and kitchen systems. It includes many more things. The geothermal is a slice of that, and so I think the incentive works against the incremental cost of the geothermal.
And those energy costs include air conditioning and heating and lighting and all of that.
Yes, yeah, and so the difference in cost that you're seeing there, the energy cost, is reflected in the difference of just the mechanical systems, though. So the lighting is represented as a baseline cost that you see through each of the options.
Okay, I guess because what I was trying to figure out is if the geothermal saves with the cooling, because you theoretically aren't cooling really with that.
You're heating.
But you are heating, but I'm saying, you're gonna have to heat that cool air up. But the cool air comes in, you don't have to spend, I know you still have to pump it. So I was just trying to make sure that the pumping of
Calculated.
the cold air, it's all calculated in there. Okay. Thought it would have been better. I was kind of,
Yeah, the difference.
yeah.
I can share my screen just to kind of briefly go through the three systems, just so you can have a sense of that.
It's a 10 million to save 5.
Well, I know.
He's gonna
Yeah, I know.
share a screen to go through the.
That's why I want to make sure like,
Oh. I think
Yeah.
I'm sharing the wrong screen. Try that again.
Andrew, have you built in the cost of any incentive programs in the final price? Did you put a certain percentage in? But we don't know that number. Is that correct? Currently, because we're obviously programs may change in a couple of years.
Right.
So there could be some significant savings with the overall cost of our heat pump system.
You mean the future systems, like,
Yes.
right, no,
Yeah.
and, yeah, exactly,
Terms of-
and Andy,
Like, we're talking about replacement systems?
No, just in general, there's no, we can apply for incentive programs in order to offset some of these costs.
right,
So that
That's
really
right.
is built into that pricing that we see.
Yeah, right. so the,
With those prices actually could come down based on whatever new programs come up or things like that.
exactly, we do have to make a decision and we have to have a budget.
Right, yes.
The Last time we were here, were you here last session? Okay, we presented the mass safe calculation for if we hit the tier 1 pathway, which was 1.05 million for the air source heat pump at an EUI of 25, which we think we can get to. Ultimately, your incentive is however close you get to it, right? So we want to aim for that. That's why we don't want to compromise on insulation, and we want to be very careful about the building design to get as close as we can to that, because it's relative to that. The ground source heat pump, there was a higher value to that because the difference was $4,500 per ton versus $1,500 per ton on the system. So it had a significant difference. That's not the entire amount he's talking about. I think that was like 2.5 versus 1. But then there's the IRA money, which he has a better handle on than I do, frankly.
Yeah, but just, so we're not showing any, the benefit of any incentives in the life cycle cost analysis, because again, the project needs to bear the raw cost of the installation. And so the incentives, we would certainly apply, whether it's VRF or geothermal, we'll apply for those incentives through the project and look to get an incentive back from to the project at the end.
Thank you.
Yep. Are you seeing my screen?
Well, they're
Not yet, kind of.
sort of, sorry. In fact, you know what? Let me do this. There, and I'm just gonna go next door and send him the invite. Go ahead. Can you make that bigger though, Andy? Like on your screen?
It's the widescreen monitor.
Oh, right.
Maximized. I can, would it help if I change the,
That's better.
That's better.
That's reasonable.
all right. I didn't do anything.
Nice job.
So what I'm showing is, so this is the VRF option. This is the first option. So this, this is in this top center, these are the outdoor VRF heat pump units. So this is the engine of that system. This is the source of a refrigerant-based system that is piped. As you can see, so this orange kind of line here, that refrigerant piping is piped into fan coil units that would be installed above the ceiling in the corridors outside certain rooms. So they would serve, your typical classroom would have a fan coil unit that is getting that refrigerant, which is allowing us to either heat or cool that space. There are also rooftop, what we call DOAS units, which are basically an energy recovery unit that's bringing in conditioned outdoor air and distributing it through a ducted system. And so each classroom in that case would get a VAV box, which would have the ability to modulate how much ventilation air is going into, say, a classroom based on the carbon dioxide levels that we're measuring in the classroom. So if the room is lightly occupied, then the tendency would be the carbon dioxide levels would drop down. And so the VAV would throttle closed, and that's a way of saving energy, of not having to deliver more ventilation air into the space than is needed. So this is, this is simplistically what would be offered in the VRF option. The geothermal option, the thing that it has in common, that all the options have in common, are these DOAS ventilation units. They will tend to operate a little differently from one option to the next. In the VRF option, these DOAS units are air-cooled heat pumps. In the geothermal option, we have a geothermal field here, which would occupy some acreage behind the school in the fields area. So these are essentially 500-foot deep boreholes that get drilled into the earth, and then tubes get installed, sort of a pair of tubes that are connected on the bottom with a little U-bend. So you're pumping water in, and then the water is returning back out. It's a closed system. It's not like a drinking water well, an artesian well, where we're actually drawing water from the ground. This is a closed system. So we've got, in the estimate, we estimated about 130 of these boreholes, and they're about 20 to 25 feet apart. So they kind of would occupy a gridded area out in the field. And then all those vertical boreholes are tied together through horizontal piping that's brought into the building mechanical room. And then the fluid in that loop is pumped through a heat exchanger. And so it's kept completely separate. And then there's another loop that's pumped through the other side of the heat exchanger, because we're purposely trying to isolate the geothermal side. And so that the ground is, below the frost line is, usually in the, 50-degree range. And so in the cooling season, we're rejecting heat to the ground. And then in the heating season, we're absorbing heat from the ground. And so that water on the inside building loop is circulated around. It's going to the DOAS units, which are a water-cooled heat pump kind of unit, versus the air-cooled heat pump type that we use in the VRF option. And then a typical classroom, instead of being served by a refrigerant-based fan cooling unit, is served by a heat pump that gets that water piping connected to it. That's its kind of heat sink. It's going to absorb water, heat from the water, or it's going to reject heat to the water, depending on whether it's heating or cooling. And then it's delivering that air to the classrooms. Again, you see the VAV box, which is delivering ventilation air from the outdoor air system to the space. That very much operates the same way. So the real difference here is, for the geothermal option, the heat sink is the ground. For the VRF option, the heat sink is the air. So the geothermal is nice because the temperature difference between winter and summer of the ground is relatively tight compared to the air. The VRF system needs to operate, down to 0 degrees outside and up to 100 degrees, in the cooling season. So that's a much bigger difference, and so that's one of the reasons why the geothermal is a nice option. The last option is kind of a variation on the geothermal theme. Replace the idea of those outdoor, in-ground geothermal, field with these outdoor, what are called air-cooled heat recovery chillers. It's basically another kind of an air-cooled heat pump. And so this is a way of providing heat to a loop or rejecting heat from a loop. And it's the same way as the geothermal connected to a heat exchanger, very much the same and exactly the same in terms of how it distributes out through the building as the geothermal option. The reason I'm not as much of a champion of this option is because of the reliance on these outdoor refrigerant-based units. I think the technology out in the industry is still kind of being refined, for this kind of product. It shows some promise, but I think there's some reliability issues with it.
Andrew, would the chillers be distributing water through the system? It's a hydronic system, is that correct or not?
Yeah, it's hydronic. Yeah, it's a glycol solution for freeze protection, but yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Same as, the geothermal also is a glycol solution because you can sometimes get down to temperatures that are close to freezing in the wintertime.
Now, the chillers that they're making now, are they like, how like they don't use Freon, that kind of thing now? Are the ones they're using now, do we see that moving forward in 10, 15 years, they're gonna want to switch that up again too? Or is it something that you don't know?
Yeah, it's just like anything else.
Yeah.
The new technology is old in 5 years and they come up with another
Well,
solution.
I mean, in terms of harming the environment, I
Right.
guess, and then them saying we can't buy parts for it, that sort of thing. My other question with the energy numbers, are those taking into account the cost of electricity increasing moving forward, or is that just based on today's prices?
There's an escalation cost that's assumed
There
in
is?
the
Okay.
year to year. It probably would have underestimated what we've seen in the last couple of years. But over a 50-year period, it's I think it's reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so Dawn, can we go back to the PowerPoint, because there's
Andy's.
Couple
slides might
more
help.
slides, yeah, with
Right, so we're good.
slightly different information,
There we go.
but that was a good primer.
Okay, so this one is project impact analysis. Okay, so it's essentially it's looking at the installation costs, and looking at the, what is the, based on the relative energy savings of each system compared to the code baseline, and comparing the cost of those systems, what is the relative payback for these systems? To me, this is a less useful table than the first table, where we're ultimately looking at the cost of ownership for the systems. But it's another way of sort of demonstrating that, relative to the installation cost and the energy performance of that system, even though the geothermal is a better performer in terms of its energy, it's not enough to overcome the incremental cost for installation.
See this slide, Andy? This is the,
Energy cost neutrality and solar PV benefits.
Okay, I'm looking for that one.
That makes sense.
Existing cost may be a little higher than what's on the screen. Last year anyways.
So similar, they'd be similar.
360,000 just for natural gas.
Mhm.
I have the figures for the electricity,
For the, just the high school.
heating.
360,000.
Okay, I'm going to try my best to read it from the screen there.
It's a 24-year payback, not a 6. And the photovoltaic.
Yeah, so this is reflecting what might be the proposed PV cost, and how those numbers kind of reflect savings versus investment.
so Andy, one thing you couldn't hear Bruce saying was, based on last year's energy costs, it was more like 360. And I know that Martine had indicated when we had gotten utility bills from you, we were missing some months.
Yeah, and that would,
Varies year from year.
sure, and that was just for the natural gas port.
Right.
That isn't
Higher.
include the electricity,
Uh-huh,
so.
okay.
But we had a really peak last year, obviously in the fall of 22 with all these increases with electricity and natural gas, so
Thanks.
So the difference is more significant.
yes. I can get you those figures if you want as well. I don't know.
Might be a good idea to have for, I don't know if we want to plug any of this into our
Yep.
next, forums.
So what's
Yeah.
the what's the life of the PVs in general? Like, so we're gonna pay 2.3 million for them. And it's gonna save approximately $100,000 a year. And how many years will those last in general? 15?
Typically, I think leases and things like that are roughly like 20 years because they've really given what they can out of the system or
Right.
been able to create that electricity for you, then they're typically up for replacement or because of new technology. So,
Well, that,
They try to
again,
match like the roof warranty, 20 years, is that what they're looking at?
I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But
so I guess I'm just feeling like, okay, so estimate approximately, it'll save $100,000 a year. I know the numbers are all approximate. And it's about 2.3. You're gonna get tops 20 years out of that. Then we own them. We have to remove them. We have to dispose of them. We have to maintain them. And 20 years up the line, somebody else is gonna have to figure out how to do that when we're all moved along.
yes.
So that's my concern. I 100% think we should have solar on the roof of this building. I'm really worried about owning them. But then I understand what Greg's
Get
saying.
more benefit out of owning them.
You think so?
By leasing, absolutely.
Doesn't want to make up for $2.3 million over 20 years.
I
'Cause
believe
that's
so,
not
yes.
at
I think we need to look at those numbers again.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we've suggested, since I think budget wise, we're good to keep them in currently,
Yes.
is that we bring on a PV consultant in DD, because it's not something that we're trained in.
Oh, and I'm not either. I'm just going off my own
It
experience.
would be really helpful to have more concrete answers and information. We're gonna keep visiting this.
So,
Anyway.
I know we talked all brick for the exterior. Can we get some of them visible from the approach? I know some people
For
don't
the
like that
love of
idea,
Pete,
but
Gregory,
it's the,
everybody
um,
can see him from the back.
it's the technology aspect of it and the variation of textures that instead of hiding them all. I know it's north, so that might pose some issues, but I'd like to have some of them showing on the approach because we want to be a modern building. What's the point in having a whole?
Why do you want to
field?
make it ugly? I
Beth,
mean,
I'm
we
telling you
don't,
why.
we don't
What-
want it
what do you
ugly.
not-
As it is, I'm having issues with design. We're gonna add these to it when we have all the different. I think that people will understand. We can put on the sign out front. We have solar panels. We spent $2.3 million on solar panels. We could put it, I think we need to let them do their design and try not to muck it up any more than we have to.
The goal to put it on as much flat roof area, it does occupy a fair amount. We haven't been showing that in the renders. We'll be seeing that you do arrive downward towards the building. I can't say right now what that view looks like, but we'll certainly be
Okay.
exploring that and seeing it. And that there's just two different points of view about that, you know.
Well, I don't think there's anything attractive about them. I think it's nice to have them if they're not going to become an albatross for them. Obviously, it's moving toward the future and that's important, but I also think that there's an aesthetic that once you've seen them once, you're good to go. You know, so
Right.
I know you don't.
I don't even see them on my house anymore. I come in, I don't even
Yeah.
notice them anymore.
They're not gonna be flat, like, it's not like we have a roof that is gonna be pitched where you put them on the pitched roof and they become part of it. There's gonna be an apparatus holding them up.
Show them off.
So, okay,
It's a
Anyways,
brand new building.
that's for another day,
Not
right?
all of them. We don't need to show.
There'll
the
be
whole-
parapet
Give me a
walls
couple.
anyways, or is it gonna be totally flat to the edge? The parapets on it, on the structure?
Yeah, a little bit of
I think-
both.
A little bit of both, yeah, yeah.
That's fine.
Deck side.
We'll try to negotiate those competing interests as we
We
move.
gotta remember too, it's a totally electric, mechanical system and everything, so you're gonna need to offset some
Yeah,
of
that's
those
what we wanna
costs.
do.
Absolutely.
And we want to show the community we're doing it. That's
Yeah.
why. And it's modern. That's a modern
It
feature.
is.
And that didn't include the peak charge
Right.
benefit.
Will that change it? Does that change it significantly?
Yeah, but I don't know how much. Andy might know more, but I think it was also trying to be conservative and there was a note on that. And that's,
Yeah.
schools often have the ability to regulate their energy use in a way that differs from residential use. So that's sometimes can be a huge advantage.
Automation system helps with that, those costs as well.
About the triple pane, did we explore that yet? Is that necessary to go triple pane still?
Yes.
Yes, we are keeping that in.
Should be there.
We'll be doing more extensive
Everywhere.
lighting and
Yes.
energy model around the architecture in DD.
Yeah.
Not even like at the roof of the like gymnasium, because you were talking about eliminating some windows there, right? Because of the triple pane, but even with they're like, no.
At this point, we don't need to take it.
Okay.
And once we go into DD and do more intensive modeling, we can reopen that can of worms. But
Take
now,
triple, you mean? Triple
Yeah, we
pane.
haven't
In-
reduced
in-
it.
Still an option that we may not need triple, because I mean, what's the
no,
relative?
no,
I guarantee
gym.
you,
We need triple.
you're gonna need it.
Okay.
There might be some selective areas where we could reduce the amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could add one of the benefits, additional benefits of the triple glaze versus double is that it acts as a hedge against drafts. And so it helps, it provides you a lot more flexibility in a typical classroom, for example, where you don't have to worry about, a child that's seated up, near closer to a window. We don't have to worry. We're not going to have traditional, baseboard radiation, which is, typically what you've always used against windows because they're leakier and they're prone to drafts. Triple glazed windows offer that benefit of not being as concerned with a draft.
So Andy, I know we intended this last slide as a backup if we needed to get into more detail. I don't know if, and if there's anything here that you wanted to highlight for the committee.
No, I think this is just kind of repeating some of the same information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Andy before he's allowed to depart? No. I'm seeing none. Thank you so much, Andy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
All right,
And-
thank you all.
Previous total project budget overview.
Okay, sure, I'll pick up here.
All right.
So this is just a reminder of the information we had at PSR in the 3011, and we use the phrase 3011 a lot, but it's basically that very ugly document on the right with the yellow and gray that includes all the information on hard costs and soft costs and reimbursement and grant information. So that's the document that we obsess about because we're eventually getting to the point where the district is signing an agreement with the MSBA, and that
That's
happens.
the MSBA's document.
That's their document, and it's quite complex to go through, and that's why all these things kind of, we've been talking about the last couple of days, all roll into this. So where we were, this is just taking the highlights of it that are important to keep in mind as to where we were at PSR. So we were at a construction budget of 147.5 million, soft costs of 25.1 million, contingencies of 4.1 million, estimated total project budget of 176.7, estimated total facilities grant of 56.4, and anticipated district share of 120.3 million. Again, that estimated max facilities grant is based on your reimbursement rate, and it's effective in, based on, the square footage and all the MSBA's caps on reimbursement. So we'll have that for you after we sit down with the MSBA. So we've been holding that figure to this point. So moving forward, the next slide shows you that what we had been tasked with is a goal of keeping our estimated construction cost at 147.5 million. In this round, again, at PSR, it was based on size of project relative to other projects of its type in a highly volatile period of construction costs and labor. So what we came through here is prior to doing any value engineering, we had two different estimators provide numbers. Construction costs were 155.6 million, 154.7 million. Average of those two is 155.2. So our goal is looking at that to do value engineering to take 7 to 8 million out. So with the help of a few members of the committee, go to the next slide, we evaluated everything we could and made recommendations, and the numbers don't correspond 1 to 41 because there are some things we reviewed and decided were not good ideas. Some things that we did feel were appropriate value engineering changes to make to the project. So this list is $7.4 million worth of reductions from the cost estimate. And there are things that the design team is comfortable with and that a subcommittee was comfortable with. And I'll just run through them just because I think it should be on record what the recommendations are here. So this would involve keeping a basketball court, but eliminating lighting for the basketball court. The basketball court's sort of in the center of the area. It's got an ambient lighting from street lighting. So it doesn't feel like a highly critical need to have lighting on that. Eliminate.
So close to the tennis courts, correct?
Tennis courts are over now further to the
Further.
other side. Yeah. Tennis courts would have lighting continue still. And it would be relocating the current control panel and putting those lights over there.
And before you keep going, Dory, just a
Huh?
thought to help with cost savings, because the tennis courts are fairly new. We installed all the lighting in,
Right.
so, okay. So you're gonna-
Keeping that, yeah, it's
Okay.
just relocating it and also keeping the controller, which is also fairly new. So that was looked at. The second is eliminating 6-foot wood fencing along the property line, and then eliminating the 6-foot chain link. These were proposed fencing along the southern perimeter, and then eliminating the 4-foot chain link proposed for a section. So each area, each perimeter had its own reasoning and conditions. Those don't exist currently, so it was just a nice idea. Eliminate the lift arm barrier gate at the emergency access path. That's something that sometimes is helpful to just eliminate potential traffic through that area. It can be replaced with bollards or other crowd or traffic calming, just to be sure people aren't.
You're gonna have a curb there, right?
Yeah,
This would be at the.
Yeah.
Be a what, a
handicap-
stationary gate, but,
Remove the stationary gate, which would be the gate to the walking path.
right,
This was an electronic.
yeah, no, we don't.
they're pricey. So caliber of trees on site, so they're preliminarily proposals to purchasing a certain width. This is actually only dropping, I think, a half an inch on the caliper size. There's more detail involved in that, but it was a negotiation discussion of that. It's not uncommon. Reduce the quantity of plant materials, so by 10%. There's a very substantial budget. That's something that we keep at this point and can kind of explore again further. It's an important conversation topic for us always. But they want a healthy budget at this point to be sure that we really have the capacity to design a really nice site. Pre-K playground, equipment allowance in lieu of the outline scope. So we had $120,000 worth of playground equipment here. We dropped that to a $60,000 budget because it's such a small pre-K program. It viewed as better to sort of work with the teachers, figure out what equipment is appropriate within a $60,000 allowance instead.
Just to make one clarification on that. So the pre-K program is actually a class at the high school. The district still has a full pre-K program at Meadowbrook.
Right.
Just
For anybody who's watching.
for anybody who might be watching. So
We're not cutting it.
minimizing the pre-K program at Meadowbrook. This is a class at the high school through the child development program.
And
So-
sometimes less is more with that, honestly, the outside, having a good stable ground, something soft for them is the most important thing.
Right.
I think.
So granite block seat walls, remember their goal to get students out. Students also have been strong about wanting seating outside. We want that very durable. So these are quite extensive, solid benchings with granite detailing on them. It was decided that only needed to be to the front of the school where we have those seat walls at the back, and we have some in both the courtyard area between the arts wing and the classroom wing, as well as in the south, that those did not need to be granite detailed. So that just was a reduction in cost, but the number and area of them still exist. Aluminum feeders in lieu of copper on the electrical feeders.
Are we sure we want to do that?
Yeah, that's
You guys are okay with that?
I don't know. I'm not an electrical
Oh,
inspector,
cause
but
that's
Yeah.
how much was that?
Christian knows, sorry, 50 or 90.
So aluminum got a real bad name as household wiring.
Right,
It started fires and stuff like that.
Right.
These are main feeders. And everyone I've ever talked to said it's safe.
you think so? All right.
Yeah, I have to say it comes up in every project and it's almost always taken as so it hasn't, there must be
It was 90,000,
The wiring gets thicker. It's $75,000.
75,000.
All right.
And I guess
It's thicker just because it can't transmit the current.
Right,
the same
right.
Diameter, so if large enough conduits are put in, then that mitigates the risk.
It'll be all right. Okay.
the other thing I would just say is like an overall for each of these line items is to keep in mind, we're early in the process. If this passes at the local vote in November, we have a long way in front of us. We can certainly trade some of these out with other savings, right? This is defining a budget for us. So if in 8 months we decide, hey, we really do want copper feeders, then we need to look at the light fixture budget or something else so that we can make sure to keep those.
That's why we keep that lengthy log, it sort of helps us to, bring back anything that suddenly, if they were wrong or our design changes and the number changes, then we have that flexibility. So the AV allowance, this is really more of a correction that we had, both the lighting, controls, and an audiovisual allowance. So there was a little bit of a difference there between those two. And in revisiting it, we felt that we could drop what we had indicated as an AV of 450,000 down to 200 for the auditorium. Formed metal panel in lieu of porcelain clad rain screen. Remember, we had looked at those exteriors, and porcelain clad is a more expensive product, and it's lovely and it has a nice masonry quality, but it's a rain screen. But it's pretty unusual to get that in a school project in Massachusetts, so it's not at all unexpected. So that shifted that to for metal panel in lieu of that, with also a goal of some reduction of that metal panel, which will be looked at in the DD phase. Reduced design and quantity of bollards based on option 2. So there were a large number of bollards in the project, and they were concrete filled stainless, and it was felt like we could definitely come up with a cheaper approach to that. So that was an overall change. Wall tile in lieu of veneer wood wainscot in the academic wing for durability was actually a positive change anyway. Eliminating acoustic treatment in gym walls. This is something we'll keep an eye on and probably bring back as we make adjustments to other areas. The gym doesn't have the obligation to have acoustic treatment in it because it's typically expected to be loud space, but it can be very helpful to improving the gym's performance. So we cut how much on that?
72,000.
72,000 there. But we'll keep an eye on, that's one of the things that we'll keep an eye on and see if we can bring back. Steel in lieu of glulam beams in just a very visually important area. Actually, I was just looking at the rendering and already miss it.
So how much was that?
Christian?
136,000.
Like, keep that in
To me, I
mind.
would like that over the acoustic treatment in the gym.
Right, well,
You know what I mean? I mean, if it comes to a design aesthetic, I mean, I understand that you might think about it.
I know.
Dang it.
the reason why we were noticing it is, remember this
Size of-
axis, like, and it's not everywhere. It's only down that axis when you come in. We have that very high ceiling.
The wedge.
We have that teaching stair, we have the arrival, and then you go up into the media center, and it's this nice rhythm that's
Mhm.
created. And then we have that little section of wood slatted that you go under, and it just warms the whole space up and keeps it from feeling like a lot of gyp and paint.
If you do
Um,
glulam beams.
Yeah, so
Since an
I think we might have a means of bringing that back, and I'll beg for it if
Try to
you
put
want.
that toward the top.
Well,
I mean,
before we get out of here, there's so. So the gyp ceiling in lieu of wood slatted ceiling is just in one area in that main commons area. So here was a big one. There was a conservative assumption placed on the basis of the athletic fields. And that was sort of an assumed that the soils might not be in condition to allow appropriate drainage, et cetera. It was basically just kind of a miscommunication between geotech and design. So we revisited that and brought in a significant savings because of a change there. And it's a change that everybody's comfortable with. There's no risk here in terms of the quality of, if anything, better from what I understand. So that was a soils change that was significant. We just made a correction on ceramic wall tile in numbers and quantities, looking at what they had. And then we adjusted their price and spoke to them about their triple pane glazing price, because you've heard us talk about that a lot. It just came in so high, and we looked at recent bid numbers and talked to them, and they brought that number down. So we didn't take quantity out. We just questioned the cost, and that was positive. And then there's a stone dust pathway proposed that was allowing ADA access to the recreational fields. And in looking at that, the decision was that it would be less expensive to go with the bituminous, less work, less detailing, less steel edge to it. And that was a savings. So we still have the path, but went with bituminous.
Something we can discuss down the road.
Yeah.
Because we mill a lot of roads in town and we keep all of our millings, so.
Uh-huh.
We use it, we're gonna be using it to cap one of our landfills, but we have lots and lots and lots, and we get make more every year, obviously,
Yeah.
pave our chapter 90 roads.
So that's an interesting.
Oh, so those millings could be
So you
used
could
in lieu of
Replace.
stone dust.
We'll just use that. for the-
What would your maintenance preference be? And this is really mainly for the path that goes along.
Borders, this is obviously, well, to comply with MS4 and things like that, like I said, a pervious surface would be the best option
Yeah.
for everything.
Right,
Like-
exactly. Well, that was
Like
my
how
only
you're-
concern about that too, is we obviously try and keep our percentage of, pervious surface. So that's great. We could explore that in DD.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, is that
You have the
something you wouldn't want to
notes
plow though?
That kind of,
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But would you necessarily need to plow it, you wouldn't be playing.
And I guess in the winter would be necessary. All right.
Yeah.
We get calls for the bike path, it's right in the middle of a storm, when you guys gonna? We haven't even got off the road yet.
Priorities, man.
Yeah.
Allowed to the bike path.
The good news is that that gets us to that $7.4 million value,
Not the 7.7 though.
but we're not done. And there was one item, there's one item.
$500,000 for the dirt.
Yeah, there was another earthworks question about whether or not the quality of the soils on site are good enough and the quality of soils under the existing building are good enough that we could retain the existing soils and which would reduce our export and import. So there's been a long deliberation process between geotech and the estimators and the civil design team. And they came back just as I walked in the room with 1.1 million in reduction on that earthwork. So
Was that be using the existing topsoil or loam layer, pushing that off to the side?
Yeah.
Using what's there, and then using that as the base and then bringing new topsoil, whatever thickness or whatever calculation that may be.
as well as a reduction in, they had, I think, 8 inches or 9 inches of gravel under the footings, reducing that to 6 inches. So there was a couple different things in there, and only 80% of that soils, under the building are they counting on. And then any soils on site that we choose to retain on site, we can compact and then put new topsoil above. So OTO really cleared the way there with a lot of those ideas.
Happy Greg.
So that picks up
Almost.
another.
So that would take us up to 8.5 million in VE.
See that?
Yeah.
Suddenly the ceiling.
Back in. Put it back in. They're gonna have to have something to distract them from the sight of the solar panels. So when they walk in, we want them to forget about that.
No, Beth, you had me until the dig, just until the dig.
Yeah. So you could go to the next slide, and maybe we'll talk through a couple other things just before we finalize that. So just for everyone else to understand, these were other ideas that we discussed that we are keeping a log of. This process continues, as we design, we revisit and estimate, we look at things, we think about things. So there were other discussion topics raised, but fortunately we did not have to take any of them. And the greenhouse numbers just was being revised. It's now $35,000. So that was a correction based on a misunderstanding.
Sounds like a glue lamp right there.
Yeah, right.
Like there must be a problem with the curtain wall, 10%.
I was gonna say, you might as well cut that out right now.
Which one?
Getting it's a savings of $10 million to reduce the curtain wall by 10%.
Oh, no, I think
Is that an
that might be
extra
the,
$100 million curtain wall.
it's either that, I think that's a whole.
60% of the budget.
All right.
I think that was kind of the note of it.
Higher value of.
So that's, again, none of
Okay.
this is being taken.
Overall value.
These are
Got it.
things that were discussed and then kind of what we would look at and where that would kind of be addressed. So.
Got it. Okay.
The cost to put the basketball court in is roughly 1.3 million. Is that right? So-
Yes,
We're understanding the value.
yeah.
So one of these were taken.
No, it's 330,000. We just looked at that 2 days ago.
185. I think that must be
But this was the value for the full basketball court, including the lighting,
everything,
and the VE that we took was just the lighting.
a percentage of it.
I could have swore it was 330, which I thought was astronomical because I wanted to make it 100 to get one court. 1.3 million for 2 basketball courts is not right.
No, I think this is wrong all the way across. All right, ignore the numbers. The list is the point, is that we have a lot, because brick in lieu of metal panel doesn't make sense either. So something must have happened with the Excel copy over. We have the actual
Because the concession stand.
I can-
was 660.
Excel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those are not aligning.
Wait, I thought we got rid of the concession.
This is the reject.
No, we have, we kept,
Still in?
yeah,
Have to.
yeah,
Right.
it's 600,000.
That one already. I thought we,
Yeah.
but I'm,
We,
You need to do something.
oh, I know.
so
That's gonna get my number.
I apologize. It's my mistake. It was something happened with the Excel link, I think. Go to the next slide, Christian, just,
Just go.
sorry, Gordon.
Yep.
Um,
Trees in there again.
so these are looking
Correct.
better. Yes, these are just added pricing information you all requested. So just to be clear, these are things that are not in the base project. Currently,
If we want to add them in,
right now would be your time.
not in the cost.
We
right?
don't have seed for the athletic fields.
We have seed in lieu, we have seed, not sod.
Correct.
When are we doing that? What month?
We do have irrigation still in the project.
But remember, these are things also that
Yeah.
some of them are good candidates to add back in later.
Yeah, or keep as, as a part of the bid process, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, that was gonna be my question. Then you would have to order them, prioritize them, correct?
Well,
If we
because
develop
this is a-
alternates, yes.
Because it's a CM at risk project, a lot of these are, civil landscape oriented, so they're not trade bid.
Okay.
So that may be that you ask the CM to carry an allowance for some of these things.
Possibly
Yeah,
pulling Is off, and at that time, the building committee would make a decision as to what.
yeah, and you can carry that forward. So it can be.
Now, in terms of the sports field storage building. How many square feet is that? I'm only wondering because you know that they're not gonna give us enough square footage inside the building for storage, and then you hate when you go into like the schools and they've got stuff stored hanging from the ceiling or whatever. I was just curious if that had enough storage where a lot of items that might get stuck in the regular gymnasiums could be put there. I know they're talking more
Right.
track and field and cross and nets and things like that, but
And I'd say it's always a concern. Storage is,
Yeah.
endless demand.
do you know
Um,
how big that
It's
was?
gotta be a shed.
It's a shed.
I was gonna say, it can't be big.
Yeah, I doubt I can't recall right off the top of my head.
Storage containers that are
That they're,
10 by 40,
5,000
400
each.
square feet.
Right,
okay,
We got two of them, so we got 800 square feet out there
All right.
already.
yeah, they're just, I think the idea is they probably were hoping to get rid of. Again, that's exactly kind of saying,
they're about as, they're off.
Eyesore.
They are.
right, so I think this is to replace that. I do think that I think that's a kind of thing that you would want to kind of keep to late because,
Oh, so we're gonna build the bathroom building
right,
on in the stadium.
and it has some.
It's attached to that? That has storage.
That has its
Have
own
some,
athletic
yes.
storage.
You know, the square footage of storage there?
That's 200 to 300 square feet. And then there's another storage space in the corner of the gymnasium wing, PE wing, that's larger.
Yep.
About 500, I think, that has an exterior exit. So that's meant for athletic as well. So we have about, I think, I'm guessing 600 to 800 dedicated to athletics. This was assumed to support additionally out, especially I think there was also that concern that on the recreational side, fields are quite far away, having something.
Sort of put it this.
Yeah, on the outside, yeah.
Again, to me, it's relatively small number, easy to kind of keep list and keep an eye on and deal with because site is the last thing.
Yeah.
300, so you got roughly 600.
I know, because the,
Well, let's just also, I did think it was important to talk about just because, Bruce, you had been,
Closets out fast.
Yeah.
you had wanted to know about diesel versus natural gas. And as you can see, there is a difference cost wise, and that is why the base here is assuming diesel.
I'm fine with the diesel.
Okay, just wanted to be sure you
Yes.
had a chance to review
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Okay, so now I think if you would like to flip back, I think, yeah, just because the question is there anything on that VE list that you would like to remove in lieu of the 1.1 million?
One more back.
Well, it's not, I captured 500 of that 1.1 already. Did I?
Oh, and your number, right, so it's only 600.
Where is that though? Where's the 5?
That's 7.4.
It's in the 7.4 because we
It is.
walked away thinking.
That's what I thought. We went with,
Yeah.
we were at 8, I thought,
Right.
with the 5. Why are we not at 8 anymore? What else changed?
Um,
That was the whole point. We got to 8 and we were or I was happy.
we were.
True. Get me to 8, we're out of here, right? We did.
I was happy.
I was.
I mean, in going through it, some things were not quite captured correctly.
So that's fine.
Allowance split from 120 to 60 on the pre-K play, for instance. So I kind of corrected that to the 60. So little things like that. So Christian's got the detailed numbers in front of him, not,
when you're saying trying to reduce or like being able to put more things back, there's things I would love to see, taking some money and trying to make that space that's covered that I want would be great. But I also think that leaving what we have the way we have it, with the exception maybe the detail with the beams. Things are gonna end up costing more, I think, still.
Mhm.
And that by having that extra to the side,
Mhm.
it's better to keep it in case there's an upcharge on something, you just get
Right.
slapped with.
right.
And for
Well-
us to start pulling things back in.
And in a way, it's sort of I guess I think of it as Christian was saying, this, we're trying to get to a budget number. We, on finishes, we tend to know that we have to kind of keep an eye on things and see where we're going. There's a 7.5% escalation assumption, or no, sorry, design
Design
contingency
contingency.
here. So we know that that's anticipating that we're gonna make changes, as well as there's an escalation assumption and built into the budget already. So we can explore those things and again, have the ability to swap it in or out, so that's a way to think about it and just kind of keep our numbers and our assumptions here.
Well, can we go to the 147.5? Can we add the land beam and go to 147.5 and then we're all happy? Beth,
In the path too, we can.
Yeah,
Likely-
yeah, I think so.
put the land beam back in.
Yeah,
We got the 6 for the one and bring it down to 147.5, the original number.
Eliminate, like. you
That gives a little wiggle room.
The glue lamp beams come in,
Mhm.
and then what was the,
Keep it as stone dust for now until we can.
Yeah, I'm gonna verify my quantities per
Well, we're
year,
not
make sure
stuck,
everything's.
So leave it as,
Now they're gonna do something.
I
leave it
think
as asphalt, but we can probably realize savings in
Right.
DD,
further savings, right?
further savings.
So keep what we have. Yeah. So we're talking about 25 and 26 bring back, right? And then,
What do we bring back?
yeah,
26,
the
good.
value of
Yeah.
those two, Christian.
It's a
Why
lot.
are we bringing back 26?
Oh, I thought that was part of the.
No, how much is the 26?
Oh, it wasn't that much, was it?
Wasn't that much,
93.
93.
You bring-
Save that on the greenhouse.
Yeah,
we did.
I thought that was the athletic fields. That's not athletic fields.
no,
No, that's,
26 is the.
that's the wood seal.
wood slotted ceiling.
What's
And this
that,
is in
96?
the entryway.
Yeah.
This is like as you enter the school,
It's what you go
you
under.
kind of go from
Come
one
into-
space to the next.
Still at 147.5? We'll add 25, 26.
What's 25's value?
Yeah, together, those are 230.
230.
And we had 6.
30,000?
And we're taking 300.
Yeah.
Plus those, we're right there.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
We're right there.
And now you have your warm entrance.
Great.
You need a warm entrance. I don't know. You want it to feel.
$1 million in
No.
contingency as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
safe to that regard.
Yeah, but
Oh, but,
you gotta have that for your change.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Not gonna be any change order.
And the reason I'm, the reason I'm,
No, when you can get.
All right.
what happens now is that I'm reporting to the estimators what we want them to correct their estimation to. So remember, some of this was us putting the markups on top. So they'll refine them again, give them to John, they'll be averaged. That's reported to the MSBA. And that's kind of what's plugged into the 3011, so.
Just so we're clear, can we just review what we've taken off this list and why?
Yeah,
I think also you have people online that
Sure.
might not be following.
Tori, do we need to vote on this? Does this committee need to vote on acceptance of the VE? I think that.
I think it's nice to just,
So we have to be clear
Yep.
on what we've just swapped, because this recommendation now has changed.
the only thing on this list that we're changing is that we're proposing removing 25 and 26 off of this list.
Due to the fact that,
Due to the fact that the district and committee have been extremely interested in biophilia and environmental conditions in the school and an attractive and welcoming appearance at the entry.
and we've recognized savings that are.
And we've recognized savings of 1.1 million that are not accounted for in this slide.
There you go.
Okay,
Nice.
that's what you're.
So we have the warm entrance And
And-
you're recognizing $1.1 million.
Right.
What is the vote that we're gonna accept, VE 1B 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, et cetera?
Can we just
would
accept the
we would
list?
accept the list
25 and 26?
Yeah, with the amendment of removing 25 and 26. That would be the motion.
And then
Okay.
you want the final number, the 147.5?
And we'd want the
I view that as just the items because
number until.
they'll need to reconcile the budget number, the estimates and give us an accurate final number, but it's roughly 7.5, right?
We have a motion.
I thought we were-
We have a motion on.
I thought we were locking on the.
So we have a second issue. We're just talking about
Oh,
items.
You're gonna lock in the final budget.
We'll lock in the budget though. Oh, okay. Lock it.
Don't worry, I'm not trying.
Like, we're get all this and we're gonna have a different number?
No, we just have to do.
Yeah, I got you.
So you know what the,
Okay.
So the motion here that would be needed would be moving to recommend or approve the recommended scope reductions with the amendment to the current page, eliminating 25 and 26, number 25 and 26 that are being shown right here.
And including the $1.1 million additional VE of earthworks correction.
Increase the amount to 1.1 because it's already considered, or.
It's already at 5.
5.
Right, correct.
Who's got that? Did you write, anybody write that down?
Victoria, are you following?
Yeah, I'm trying. Is this being recorded?
can we not use the number? Can we just say,
Yeah.
additional earthwork savings?
Yeah.
Because I think we're gonna stumble on that somehow.
All right, so
You want to make the motion while you're going here, Gordon?
can I make the motion?
Okay, sure. Go for it.
Yeah, okay. All right, I move that we accept the recommended scope reductions recommended by the Value Engineering Subcommittee with one amendment to the current list that's being shown. Number 25 and 26 will be removed from that recommendation. Also recognizing the new cost savings that have come through.
Earthworks, who is it?
And which number is that?
Cost savings.
Relative to
600.
earthwork
Relative to,
for the bill, yes.
I don't know, relative to what, I have to finish that.
It's so many things, relative to the ability to retain existing soils on site and reduce.
Relative to the ability to maintain more existing soils on site. How'd I do, Victoria?
Mouthful, but you did it.
I'll second.
I made a motion, Greg's seconded. All right. Second. Any discussion? I know that Kim Collins has joined us. Steve's online and Heather's online, so we're gonna do a roll call vote. Are we all set? Okay. Mr. Fenny?
Yes.
Ms. LeVar?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Quimby?
Yes.
Mr. Crucial?
Yes.
Coming from Rhode Island with the yes. Nice. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Marjorie Melcher?
Yes.
I miss anybody? Okay, that motion passes.
Nice.
If you could flip forward about 3 slides,
I just want to admire the passing of that motion. No, I'm kidding.
keep going.
Very well worded.
There we go.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, go
Oh.
back one.
Doug?
So this is our revised total project budget.
So this is an important one to look at. So this is in the midst of today while the numbers were coming in. John did a great job of plugging in the 3011 and we got a construction budget at that point of 147.8. That's where we were with the VE at that moment in time. Our soft costs come in at about 25.8 million. Our contingencies are the same as they were in PSR of 4.1 million. So our estimated total project budget has gone up at this point from earlier today from PSR to 177.8. But the max total facilities grant has also gone up through going through this math in more detail and also looking at the additional incentive points that Dory mentioned at our last meeting from the lead, sustainability related incentive points. So the anticipated district share has actually gone down to 115.5 million.
Ooh,
4.5 million.
nice. That's a mic drop right there.
It's a really good number.
But I don't want to confuse this, Kristen, but if we're gonna drop 300 grand out of this, right? So the number is gonna fluctuate down.
Yeah, it will go
1.5.
further down
15.3.
And $1.5 million from Mass Save after the project.
later. Yeah,
0.2.
or a million.
Victoria?
Yeah, that's a number you can stomach. Victoria's got her hand up.
Oh. Victoria?
I'm just noticing on my Zoom panel that the record button isn't selected, so I was curious if we're recording this, because I know we usually post these to YouTube.
It's,
It is.
I am, yep.
Okay, great. You know, it's good news here, so I want to make sure.
Another recording is the good news. That'd be very sad.
next slide.
Next slide. That's just, this is a beautiful slide.
The
That's nightmares.
20.3.
It was 120.
Do we have to adjust the numbers?
The grant was 56.4.
The language
Based
Ben
on-
gave me.
Yeah.
And John, tell me if this is correct, but Ben reviewed this and said that this is the language of what we need to confirm that you have reviewed the budget. I do think that John wants to enter a specific number. So the budget, that was on the last slide was 177.8.
Well, within the MSBA submittal, eventually we need to be clear what the district's upset limit is,
Mhm.
not what the exact number is for that. So I think at the PSR,
177.
I'm pretty sure we said that the district's upset
180.
limit was 180.
We did, yes.
And so I don't think this vote, I don't know. I guess I would think that with this motion on the next slide, I would want to have that upset limit number in there. 'Cause that's the only.
I
one
kind of
that's
think
coming
so as
from the
well,
district.
because I think that's what the MSBA wants on the 15th is your total project number.
So our soft cost is up 10%. Are we gonna talk about that?
Sure, yeah, that's partially, remember I was in the meetings
IT.
talking about how IT and furniture were just placeholder numbers at PSR. And we reviewed and provided, got the consultants to provide budgets for that. So those are, again, you don't make the final purchase till later, but we ask them to go through the motions of figuring out what kind of equipment, what kind of furniture roughly, so that we know we have enough budget to get the school what it wants. So that went up. I think there were also additional numbers added for geotech. So there's all the design costs like engineering.
What's geotech?
So additional,
All the soil stuff.
soil
we've just
work
been
that we're talking about, more money
More
for,
analysis,
the
more
analysis of
monitoring,
that.
Soft costs.
construction,
Yeah,
soft costs.
yeah.
We've also been noting that we will have to have, with the Mass Save program, you have to bring on another energy consultant, which gets partially reimbursed, but not fully. There's gonna be intensive energy modeling. PV consultants, we're gonna need to bring in. And we've also noted need for during construction, again, making sure you get your incentive points is having a consultant dedicated. So some of those things are in the other reimbursables category that we recommended bump those numbers up so that we're covered.
So that's in the owner's budget. So it's in your side with Skanska to control. And if we agree that there needs to be a PV consultant, there's some funding available to support that. So that's how that's treated.
I asked a question on the, the increase here to the potential facilities grant, that's coming through, as you said, the points that we got through the lead.
Right.
And other elements that we've done through design.
So, yeah,
Could
it's,
that additionally go up, given that our demographics have changed?
yes.
So that as we enter into another agreement with the MSBA, the current feasibility agreement has us being reimbursed of eligible costs, keyword eligible costs, for roughly 56.6.
I think they're locked in when it goes to the board in November.
Right, but are you thinking it's gonna change between now and when the board meets?
I think that when they locked us in 2 years ago in the feasibility study, our demographics have changed. Our low income numbers are through the roof in 2 years. That's got to change something.
I don't know when that's reviewed, if they revise that at
I thought
every.
every agreement, the way I understood it, every new agreement with them, they have to revise.
Yeah.
and look at.
I don't know the answer to it. I'm fairly certain that once they approve it at their board meeting in November, that's it.
It's
No, I'm understanding that, but what they're approving in their board meeting in November
October.
has to be new criteria.
The era.
Yes.
Because whether it was accelerated repair or entering the feasibility study, we've gone up. Every single reimbursement we've gone up. We started this process back
You can ask them.
in accelerated repair, we were like 53%.
We have a call with them at 1 o'clock on Monday. They just want a review of this, so we'll ask that question on Monday.
That's a great question.
And when are you presenting this? On the 15th?
We're submitting
Submitting it.
The number,
the
the
number.
budget.
the 15th, yeah.
So going back to the vote language. Did we want to,
Put the number in.
I think the number, construction costs, like Greg said, should be 147.5. And total project budget, I just tinkered with the 3011, Krista, it looks like the total project budget would be 177.5. $300,000.
So you're
It's
testing,
more, we're-
basically taking the 300.
800,000 over where we were still. Well, because we were at 176.7,
For total project budget.
Yep. right? That was the original,
Right, but your
Yeah.
offset limit in prior submittals was the 180.
180.
So I would stay focused on the 147.5 as a target that you just worked hard on
Right,
hitting.
but my point to that,
Your account shares also dropped
Right.
$4 million.
right, but we worked hard to keep the construction costs down. Now we're just gonna let the soft costs go up $6 million and not really talk about it.
We don't have to spend it, but if we don't let them know
But we're
about, it,
set our budget now, though.
we can always spend less.
We
Right.
can also budget less.
As we're doing that, you may be offset, well, you are offset first with the fact that the grant coming to the town is gonna go up, which reduces our share. And that may go up again, which is why I asked the question. It may not go up significantly, but I would imagine if they have to review it, it could go up again.
The soft cost went up $600,000.
I thought we were at 56.4, now we're up 60 to 62.
The soft costs were 25.7, 25.1. And
No, wrong.
25.7.
It's mostly with FF&E and technology. to be
Yeah.
honest with
I was in
Yeah.
the wrong, you're right. Thank you, Christian.
The other difference is that this now includes a CM pre-construction services. We did not have CM at the PSR level,
you. I think I plugged in 300 grand for this.
so that's half of
As
it.
we hadn't voted on it yet.
Correct.
Right.
And never mind that, these numbers are gonna change again.
Well, no, we
You
set
are-
our budget, our
Your
budget's
total
our
budget is gonna.
Yeah, won't go
Right,
up.
but you can't go up, so it can only go down from here.
So we're up 800,000 though, right? Am I right in that?
600,000, I thought.
No, from the 177.5,
I would say,
from the 176.
the up 800,000, given that we went from DBB to CMR. And went from no drawings to drawings. We're in good shape, and we did the soft cost change, because it really, the numbers on IT and furniture are really important to the project, so I think.
700.
You're dead even, really.
I'm saying we will need furniture in the high school.
You will, unless you want to.
Solve all stuff. I think.
Yeah, yeah.
But definitely need IT.
So I think the proposal is that just the project number is what project budget that we want included in the motion.
177.5,
So a motion to,
so it's actually less than 177.8.
yeah,
Yeah, so I just went back so that people could see the breakdown. Okay, anybody want to make that motion?
Is that a motion?
Yes.
well, again, this was without that number embedded, so you'll have to be a little creative here and revise the motion.
Seed, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there you go.
You could just say, the School Building Committee completed its review of the schematic design total project budget of 177.5 million for the East Long Meadow High School project and approves the submittal to the MSBA for consideration.
I'll second it. There you go. He seconded it.
Okay, so
Somebody
Frank made the
think it.
motion
The school.
Yeah.
and Beth, you seconded.
Me. Contract. I got 3 more years right now.
Ryan seconded.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call. Mr. Fenny,
Yes.
Ms. LeBar,
Yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Quimby,
Yes.
Mr. Crucial. Yeah,
Yes.
all right. Who am I missing here? Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Margin Boucher,
Yes.
I missed anybody. We have a budget.
Okay, there we go. Congratulations. Jim.
It looks just like a blur.
Next slide, fireworks.
Yes.
It's another vote.
Another vote. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Modify.
We do have to, I think, modify this. Mr. Quimby has more information on something.
Yes, door access system modified to access. Video surveillance system modified to access.
That's the company name.
That's the company name. I apologize, I literally met with them today.
So 2, 4, and 6 would all be
Access.
access.
2, 4, and 6. Access.
And again, these are systems that you're using throughout the district or plan to move to throughout the district, hence the reason for a proprietary action. Okay.
And what's BMS?
Building automation.
Building management. system.
Well, yeah.
You want a motion? I move to approve the following proprietary items, specification in the project manual. Item 1, structureware for BMS. Item 2, access for door access system. Item 3, Schlage for door hardware. Item 4, access for security cameras. Item 5, Atlas for clocks and paging. Item 6, access for video surveillance system.
Second.
Okay. Oh, Ryan, quick on the seconds. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You just listed all 1 through 6, right? I thought you wanted to delete one of those, huh? Right.
No, just modify.
Modify.
Oh, okay. Well, I bet.
Okay. We'll go roll call. Mr. Fenny,
Yes.
Ms. LeBar,
Yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes. Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Quimby,
Yes.
Mr. Crucial,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Marchand Boucher,
Yes.
unanimous. Motion passes. We have proprietary items. Fireworks.
Next one's fireworks.
Upcoming milestones, hope we got this right. Christian and I met with the town council the other night and presented, and that revised a little bit what you've seen. These dates are carried forward from our previous conversation. So coming up this week, consultants are providing their documents for our early submittal on the 15th that the MSBA has requested. So other documents are going in on the 15th. And then on the 21st, remaining documents are due to us for 24th final submittal, we hope. Or right after you vote, we'll meet with you again on the 24th for your approval to submit the schematic design documents. And then on the 25th, we submit them to the MSBA ahead of our deadline. On the 12th, the town council is meeting with Kim to talk about the bond process, probably reviewing language on the ballot as well. And
Can I ask
then,
a question about that?
yes,
So I think at that same meeting, we would have drafts of the votes
That is the
although
hope.
votes won't be taken.
That's my understanding from our conversations
Okay,
with folks thus far. Because what we heard from council president was the desire to have a meeting on the 12th and then a second meeting on the 19th and to.
which not only allows them to hear about
Yes,
bond structure and from both Kim and bond counsel, but then gives the public a chance to
Exactly.
hear it and then hear it again when they actually go to vote.
and all of this now, Kim is here and now knows what the project number is, and that starts, the process of really looking at the bond process, and it's all been very, simplified thus far, and it can now go into her hands for thinking about and exploring further. And then on the 25th of October, the MSBA will approve a scope and budget agreement. Somewhere between those, when we submit and that date, there will be a call, we will meet with the MSBA, we'll review the square footage issue, and we'll kind of see really where those relationships land and what that grant number is going to look like. And then the final approval is on the 25th. And then November 7th is the special election for the debt exclusion.
Should we go to the MSBA on the 25th? No,
Yeah, there's a representative of the SBC.
of the committee, yeah.
I don't think you also go, but maybe.
I think
speak for
they-
Yourself or,
They've got 9
live?
projects or something that they're
yeah,
going to that meeting, so it could be a long.
Is that in Boston? Or is it?
I think
think there's
I
still-
think-
they're still doing virtually.
I'd say they said the other day that they were going to be starting to do in person, but we don't know. They've been.
Yeah, We've been to Boston. We've been
We
there.
haven't.
Yeah.
No, the MSBA, I mean.
We've been.
Wouldn't be our first trip.
I won't make the joke now. Just to fill in the committee, so while we prepare, and as we prepare for the meetings on the 12th and the 19th with town council, we're gonna take the MSBA vote language that we've seen similar vote language with the feasibility study, with accelerated repair in the past. I can now put in the budget number into that vote language. The one thing that I would ask about is that in the vote language that they provide, they talk about the percentage reimbursement. If that's gonna change, then I guess I would leave that blank when I'm sending that to town council. This would be the town attorney, not town council, the board.
Well, we'll know Monday, I guess, right?
Okay.
Checking in.
Okay, because my understanding of the process, it's going to the town attorney first to review what the draft looks like. Once we get any possible changes, which usually there aren't any, then we send it to MSBA. All of that has to happen before the 12th.
Correct.
How quick is the MSBA's turnaround on something like this, given that when I send them in a modification to the school building committee membership, it can take them up to a month.
It's generally pretty quick. They
On this.
understand that you're under the gun.
Okay,
We also made a point at PSR of noting that need because of the advanced approval
Right.
required on
I
the
mean,
language.
we're
So
on
we did try and
a pretty
forward.
big timeline, urgent timeline.
Oh, perhaps we bring that up on Monday.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think so too.
If that's if what I've outlined is accurate in terms of the pathway, I can put this. I talked to the town clerk today. She did not feel we needed to put it on town stationery necessarily because there'd be some kind of cover sheet in the town council information packet that would obviously indicate that this is the motion and the vote language. So I can put that together and try to get it to the attorney either tomorrow or early on Monday. That works. And hopefully we get it back quickly from the attorney and we can send it to the MSBA. Everybody feeling comfortable with that?
Probably can know this, but how's the pool fit in? When are we getting documents to estimate the cost of the pool? And
Next week also, or
Documents are going out to estimating next week.
next week?
So, and they have a 3-week window.
Okay.
So
That's early September then.
yeah, I think September 6th was our goal for coming back. I think so.
So do we need to hit any of these town council meetings for the pools?
Does it have to, I mean, they're
And
gonna,
it's been a question also about, I think the basic language does need to be developed by the town lawyer. When I say council, that's the council,
so
Town attorney.
town attorney.
we're not getting a grant for that,
Right.
so,
MSBA has no say in it, but whatever you need.
That's
You
true.
could, you could work
similar
from,
language, I would move.
Yeah, you
that
could work
we
from
appropriate,
this.
but we don't know that number yet.
right, and
Would we know that number before the 12th?
I think we can make sure to know that.
Who, are we gonna
Good.
value engineering the pool?
Probably, yeah, we're certainly reviewing, reconciling and, and,
So we should set a meeting right there, right after the 4th or the
Yeah.
6th, whatever date.
yeah.
Somewhere in between all these dates, we're gonna try to open school too on the 28th of August. No.
So you said documents are available Friday? Is that
I,
No,
let's double check.
Tuesday,
Tuesday, what day?
15th?
15th,
Reconciled
we're
estimates.
assuming that the estimates will be reconciled right after Labor Day on the
Yeah.
by the 6th.
6th of,
Give them like 2.5 weeks.
yeah.
Maybe
that's
they
pretty
don't
small.
need that.
3 PM on the 24th.
And the language is gonna be very specific, stating you don't get a pool unless you get a school.
Yeah, they know.
Non-binding,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the different, it's a non-binding as was what,
30th.
28th is teachers are back. 25th, new teachers are back,
3 o'clock,
3 PM. Yeah.
3 o'clock on the 24th.
24th, and then we have the 21st we have, or when's the next, or next month, September?
September.
Yep.
However, you have open houses,
right.
Don't have one.
we don't have those dates.
So anticipating the week of the 6th, we'll be doing another review and BE and conversation with the full committee. And they'll be producing that number, I mean, essentially, so this committee doesn't necessarily need to be participant to approving that number that goes on, so it'll be at least a
Pool committee probably,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're gonna have a pool committee meeting.
Between the 6th and the 12th,
Yeah,
well, before.
Yeah.
Should be the 7th or.
yeah. Ideally, we get it done by the.
The calendar look.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so. You want me to,
We should have Cora send an email out on that, just so we can set.
Yeah, and we're gonna take a look and see. With,
need to know that
talk to the
we-
estimators and
yeah, so,
see if we can kind of move up their reconciliation a little bit to try and give us a little.
Smaller project.
So I have a vague recollection that we were only gonna do one estimate.
Oh, you may be right, it's only on.
I'm not sure if it was mine or yours, to be honest with you, but
We were for sure going to do one.
did you include it in
We were
your?
gonna do both, John, but I'm not.
Okay.
Back at my notes.
It's probably better if we do both, but
Do too.
you have another slide?
Yes,
All right. Is that even on? Is that on the agenda?
and one more slide, I think she's got something up here for us if we need.
Ah, next picture.
There we.
There we are.
Right. All right, so just a quick communications update. So we did have a successful booth at National Night Out. Thanks for especially Dawn, your help with the booth and everyone who came out, and the design team for the boards. So that was great. We got a lot of good feedback. Also the campaign group had a booth a couple slots down, and both were, I think, very well attended, had a lot of traffic. So yeah, I think that was positive. And we have up on here a list of the upcoming open houses and also our upcoming community forums. And I think one of the goals today is kind of to identify which of the open houses that the project team will attend, and maybe set up a group of folks from SBC members to attend a couple of these, either with us at the ones that we attend or separately. And I think the thinking is that we can give some updated boards and presentation materials to be set up at those, but just kind of coming up with a game plan of who's going to be attending these, I think would be great.
So one of the things on the open houses, especially at your elementary schools, there's not a ton of space. So you're really gonna be at maybe a table in the hallway, especially Maple Shade leading us off on September 6th. It gets, all the elementary schools get a great turnout. Actually, all the schools get a great turnout for open house. But it's very crowded there, so you probably only need two maybe people who would be willing to be at the table and have some of these boards up to answer questions.
I'm happy to go to all, any, or none, whatever you want, wherever you need me.
We
Okay.
could use your help at all.
Okay.
Like,
What time do these happen?
generally, it's the elementary school start somewhere around 6:30. I think principals set that time frame.
Great job last time.
Frank, when do you start yours? 6:30?
6:15 into the auditorium, 6:30 to classes.
I don't think any of them start earlier than 6.
Mm.
Parking's challenging.
Yes.
So if you're going to the Maple Shade open house,
That'll work.
park at Birchland. If you're going to Birchland's open house, park at Maple Shade. It's an easy walk. There's a bituminous
Can-
walkway.
Some of the people be outside, like if the weather's nice, is that a good thing idea or a bad idea?
I think the people are inside.
They're
people are
inside,
inside
but would you
though,
get them as they're coming and going or?
Good idea. I like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Meadowbrook, you could be outside. They also link that with their book fair. And so everybody filters through the
Through the
gym.
gym.
out those-
Yes.
that way? All right. That,
Richland Park, they all kind of use different exits, so I wouldn't recommend that.
yeah, just do in the front. Okay.
And Mountain View's one way in, one way out, so you could put a table.
Okay.
I could be there too, because I also probably would be a good idea to hit parents with the power school parent stuff as well.
Yeah, we'll have to do
Hey,
it.
don't be mixing subjects here.
It's called the efficiency.
Two tables.
Selling other stuff.
Yeah.
Selling your. He's selling your.
We want them focused on one thing. They don't need to know what their kids are doing in school. They don't need any of that information. Grab your child's phone and say, what's this? Show me how to do it.
Anybody else able to be at any of these?
I can go to stuff, whatever.
So
Yeah.
I'll be at Mountain View's
Okay.
and I'll be at Birchland's, so.
Okay. And I'm generally at all of them.
Now is oh yeah, you said they can't go. Okay, never mind.
What's that?
No, the other group that is helping us out, but they can't go to the schools. It's not an
They can't be
election though.
inside the schools.
Maybe outside,
Yeah.
right?
Be however many feet it is from the.
They have to be beyond
Or
the,
something.
Polling place, I believe.
They're all, yeah.
Yeah.
even though it's not an election kind of a thing, just because it's like at that point.
So they should know about meet and greets that Meadowbrook pulls then, because Meadowbrook's having a meet and greet at Apple Place and maybe they can go there.
Oh, they definitely.
Tons of families go there.
Okay.
When is Meadowbrook having that? Did you be able to share that?
I can find out, please.
I'm just a little bit concerned about there needs to be an urgency starting like next week for that. And obviously we're stuck and I don't know anybody really on the committee or people that are, she could have a lot of people right now, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just a few people. And until we, it's got to be fast and furious but it's got to start happening. Do you know people who know people? Kids are old,
I think they've
know?
been continuously updated on our information.
Yeah.
And then they are working on gaining information and actually for National Night Out, it sounded like they were thinking of in September doing a door-to-door campaign.
Okay.
Wow.
Cause I still wouldn't, if I wasn't on this building committee, I still wouldn't know much about it.
Mhm.
And I guess that's fair,
They do have a online presence and it sounds like they're going social media. We have an online presence that's getting better with Victoria and Don's help and Ryan's help. And I think we share.
Don's doing it all.
Yeah.
Don. And then we share anytime we have these we could share upcoming events to town Facebook page, right?
Are we gonna do those videos too?
Yes, that's right.
So we have 2 videos out. I think Don wants to schedule another video now with panel group, but we have not scheduled that yet.
Well, what we're gonna do, Ben was gonna do it, right, he's out this week, so tentatively next week, we'll try to. With the other 2.
Okay.
So,
If you want me to help, Don, I'm out next week, but I could do the following, just.
all right. Christian, are you on board with, did you see the stuff I sent you?
Are you trying to go on vacation?
It's a job for videos. It's a, he
Oh, you
shared,
did some editing of
he shared a script.
I sent us.
We can share it again.
To you and Ben, so if you haven't, just take a look at it and. You shout if you have any thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like if people have the open house dates in their calendars, and so we know that we have enough volunteers to at least be at the table in case someone needs to be called away and be mobile. That would be helpful. Obviously, we'll be ready and set up a full presentation for the 21st of September and October 19th. Other key nighttime dates are September 12th and September 19th in terms of town council meetings.
And also, and I know we had mentioned it, I think, last time, there'll be like a QR code kind of thing, big enough people can just like, if they want information,
To go to.
that'll go to the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, some people might not walk up to it, but if it's big enough and high enough, they might just hit it and they'll. You might get lucky and they might look up something.
And some of the changes to the webpage have already happened in that now it's an actual picture, one of the renderings.
Yeah.
That links you into the other information. Trying to streamline the other information.
Right.
Based on questions that we've received from different members of the community.
We'll put, because we'll have a couple, so we'll be sure.
Also, yes, the design team had the QR code on their boards, and I thought those were great. So when we're getting new ones for open house, I think we'll keep to include that. And also we had the monthly pamphlet printed out, and we handed those out, and I think that those had a lot of great information on it, and it had the QR to the website and also recent presentations on there. So we can get those, the next issue printed for to hand out at the open houses as well.
Okay.
Given the real estate challenge of these forums, open houses, and in general in lobbies, you know, what we'll do is have a final rendering, and we're trying to figure out a 2 or a 3 board layout.
I would say a 2 board if you.
Okay.
I think the 3 boards right there were all very appropriate to have for discussion, though. The one I really didn't go do much was the existing conditions, although it was nice to have. I think the 4, I definitely used all 4 of the National Night Out to talk to people.
What I had in mind was, because we're putting more energy into a rendering of the building exterior. And then there's the pool, and then there's the site plan. Those tend to be the things that in this project feel like people spend a lot of time looking at this.
And that's the 3 boards we had,
In the.
Right.
plus the existing.
Plus the existing, and it's the existing,
The only thing existing did was those that haven't been in the building, you could point to that and say, look at, here are some of the deficiencies that we're dealing with. There's some real pictures. So even if we stack them like that and just have 2 easels, I don't think it would take up a lot of space, but I found all 4 of them useful into the discussion with people.
Can we leave a couple if you had extras that you wanted to?
that's why we're asking.
At the entrances. So when they're walking in, you could have the QR code there with, you know what I mean? And people can walk in and they'll see it, and then they'll know that it'll be in the building too. You know, then maybe that's a way of getting more information out there without it actually being, you know, just a thought.
Yeah.
If you have too many to fit, we can put them outside by the
I
entrance.
mean, you could put 2, I'm just thinking of Maple Shade, off to the left, you can put 2 right.
That's
there.
why I was asking, because it might be that you
do
just
that.
want
It's
to leave
under-
them there
an overhang.
and have each of the schools have
Yeah, I suppose.
some
you
level
could
of
do it
board
outside if you want to
with
do
the-
that. You
yeah,
have to filter
information.
by.
Just if we have more and we can't fit it,
Yeah.
and if we want a place to put it, the QR code might be the best place for that, because with the exception of the schools where they have the 2 entrances, they'll, I think people scan it walking in or walking out.
Quick on that phone, just.
I know.
And can I just add, I know I've mentioned this before, but St. Michael's has over 800 kids that are enrolled into their program for CCD, and they're starting in September. And every parent has to come into the hall to pick up their kid
Mm.
for the last 15 minutes. So
All right.
there's a lot of people there.
Are they back
You just get
to-
them some.
They,
The parish hall 3 times a year per grade, and they start in September.
September, okay.
September 21st is great.
And that's where maybe a collaborative group from the outside could be.
Mhm,
Right.
Yep.
That's true.
Father Wayne,
correct?
you guys stole him from us. He was in Williamstown before he came here. He's the best.
He's the best.
He is the best.
Fantastic.
I like to think we just attracted him here.
Well, his family's from this way, so.
There's no theft involved. You heard about the building project and he said, this is where I want to be.
He'll be able to watch it, right?
That's
Next door, yeah.
I could definitely send over the suggestions to the campaign to Carolyn on where her group can potentially engage with community. And also, we do have the boards that are already printed for that we used at National Night Out. So maybe there's an opportunity to place those like at Town Hall or Senior Center or somewhere else. We already have those in hand.
They're in my office.
Yeah.
Displayed. I've drawn people into my office
Right.
because of the display.
Yeah, is there a place that
Oh,
makes sense? Or
town hall's a good idea.
Yep.
I just.
You get a lot of traffic.
A lot of people.
What about the library?
Tells everybody.
Actually, the library might be good.
Okay, I can,
The library.
Yeah,
I can check in with libraries.
like I said, everybody goes in.
You just stand in the rotary.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
Yeah, all day long.
Spinning it around. Get a car wash at the white.
All right, any final thoughts, Victoria?
no, I think we covered it. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I don't know if you folks know, but Long Meadow just issued an RFS for elementary school program.
I don't want to hear about
Really?
Was it an elementary?
Middle school.
And they're working on the
Middle school, yeah.
I think it's middle school.
middle school, yeah.
They want to combine the
it.
two.
Yeah, they wanna,
Might have
they should.
2 calls to add resume.
Get like 300 kids in each school.
I'm like, no.
Cover new business. Any other new business?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Wow, okay. During the second.
Team together, right?
Just a quick. Look down here, Mr. Penny,
Yes.
Mr. Lahr, Ms. Page,
Yep.
I'm a yes, Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Quimby,
Yes.
Ms. Crucial. In Rhode Island.
He adjourned a while ago.
Okay.
Went out Friday.
Mr. Thompson
Yes.
and Ms. Martin Boucher.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.
Okay.
All right.